Man, water is so good. I will never understand people who don't like water. I understand why you like prefer maybe a soda or juice. I understand that you like the taste more, but just outright not liking water is such a mystery to me. I feel like that's just not safe for your body, man. I don't know. Let's see what the King of Mountains have to say. Okay, there's a oh boy, please not. Oh, this is gonna be this is gonna be the last one, and it's gonna be a bit of a read. It's gonna be a bit of a read. Okay, I'm just exhausted and hungry. Euclid, SCP-1529, native environments be kept under telescope and satellite surveillance whenever weather and daylight permit. Year-round telescope surveillance is to be conducted from the Foundation permanent monitoring stations in, pardon me, Nepal and People's Republic of China. As early in the year as weather permits, a Foundation Front Company South Kumulongma portage shall establish forward monitoring stations at base camp on the northern and southern axes, and at the higher camps as weather emits, with the exception of Camp Vi on the northern axis and Camp 6 on the northern axis and Camp 4 on the southern, to be maintained until weather conditions force the evacuation of the mountains for the reason. When SCP-1529 is active, telescope surveillance will be conducted by means of automatic telescope with a video feed playing at 7 seconds delay to avoid a repeat of Incident 2. When necessary and safe, surveillance shall be conducted by airplane or helicopter. The Foundation shall liaise with civilian expedition coordinators as necessary to prevent attempts on the summit. When SCP-1529 is active, the bodies of any hikers who encounter SCP-1529 are to be removed from the Foundation as soon as possible for autopsy and disposal. All SCP-1529 related casualties shall be attributed to natural causes relating to altitude sickness and hypothermia. Any survivors or witnesses are to be debriefed and administered Class B amnestics. Mobile Task Force Psi 29029 Alpine Echo shall remain on standby at all times at the Foundation monitoring station in. During tours of duty, all members of the MTF shall remain at all times in a pressurized environment, acclimatized to 7,900 meters above sea level. That's pretty high up there. In the event that recurrence of Incident 1 occurs, Alpine Echo shall deploy to the mountain by helicopter and attempt procedure Bookreef. Description: SCP-1529 is a humanoid individual residing near the summit of Mount Everest in Nepal, above the 800-meter death zone mark, where human acclimatization is believed to be impossible. SCP-1529 appears to be of average height and weight and is dressed head to toe in what resembles standard mountaineering wear and boots, colored white. SCP-1529 face is entirely obscured by the hood of the parka and what appears to be an oversized pair of opaque black mountain goggles. SCP-1529 has never been observed to wear any clothes, as very few living people have observed SCP-1529 except through a telescope. It is not known whether it's coming out close or part of its body, or what it may look like underneath, except as per interview 1. Is it like the abominable snowman? The Foundation became aware of SCP-1529 in the 1970s when an annual expedition to the summit of Mount Everest became commonplace, and rumors began to circulate in the mountaineering community about a monster near the summit. Photographs developed in George Mallory's camera after the discovery of his remains in 1999 indicate that SCP-1529 was present and active by the time of his attempt on the summit, and was not significantly different in appearance than it is today. Footnote: English mountaineer who perished in 1924 after possibly becoming the first man who reached the summit of Everest. Okay. Foundation media assets have reported that Mallory camera was never found and that his death was the result of a fall. During periods when daylight is sufficient and cloud cover allows for surveillance of the mountain, SCP-1529 on an average observable percent of the time. For percent of the time, SCP-1529 is inactive and lies or sits motionless. Recorded periods of inactivity have extended from 17 minutes to possibly 8 months. Median period of inactivity is 23.4 days. When active, SCP-1529 can be observed to climb about the upper reaches of the mountains and summit in no discernible direction. SCP-1529 has never been observed to use any tools or climbing aids other than its hands or feet, and while traveling along established climbing routes will ignore the existence of guide ropes or ladders that have been installed by previous climbers. SCP-1529 has demonstrated an ability to climb or descend sections of the mountain face believed impassable to conventional mountaineers, has never been observed to fall or lose its grip, and is seemingly unencumbered by sub-zero temperatures, high winds, thin air, or low atmospheric pressure. It's basically just a yeti, isn't it? The cause of its becoming active or inactive is unknown and shows no correlation to weather, time of day, traffic up the mountain, season, or time of the year. SCP-1529 has never been observed to descend below the 8,000 meter mark, except as per Incident 1. Documented periods of activity has extended from 3 hours to possibly 6 days. Median documented period is 15.2 hours. Nighttime observation of SCP-1529 has thus far proved impossible. Infrared imaging has shown no differences in temperature between SCP-1529 and the surrounding mountainside. God, these are some monster paragraphs. If human climbers ascend past the 8,000 meter mark, while SCP-1529 is active, it will attempt to make its way towards them and interpose itself between them and the summit or camp. SCP-1529 seems to prefer to target solo climbers or climbers that are significantly ahead of or behind the rest of the group, but will target the individuals within the group if such an opportunity does not present itself. Once SCP-1529 is within eyesight of a traveler, it will attempt to gain his or her attention and cause the traveler to make eye contact with it, which induces a hypnotic effect in the victim. The victim finds it very difficult to break eye contact with SCP-1529 and will begin to feel very warm and comfortable and enticed to sit down and relax. Once the climber has stopped moving, SCP-1529 will close range with the climber and data expunged. That's kind of it is scary, especially imagine in a blizzard, like just, and you see this like shadowy silhouette of this monster, and it just wants you to look into its eyes, and then we don't know what it does. It could be eating you. It could be do something else. Like, we don't know. It does say death from hypothermia appears to occur within 1 to 2 hours of making eye contact with SCP-1529, much more quickly than is typical for climbers stuck near the summit. After death, SCP-1529 victims experience an extremely accelerated state of decay. After several hours or days, bodies have become rotted and mummified in levels comparable to bodies that have lain exposed on the mountain for several decades. Oof. Of the approximately 220 people who have died in high altitude of Everest since 1924, SCP-1529 is believed to have accounted for at least people have survived. It's believed to have accounted for at least, and then people have survived encounters with SCP-1529. Almost all except as per interview 1, due to another mountaineer assisting the victim before SCP-1529 made physical contact. SCP-1529 does not appear to be capable of entrancing more than one climber at a time. However, physical encounters between SCP-1529 and more than one person have been noted to lead to data expunged. Purpose and motivation for SCP-1529 behavior is unknown. See interview 1 for speculation. Incident 1. On 19. SCP-1529 entered Camp 5 on the northern approach at 7,775 meters and data expunged. Casualties occurred, including both Foundation personnel operating the Camp V monitoring post. I'm just going to have... No. My pretzel. Just going to have to really quickly something. Foundation acid in the media attributed death to a thunderstorm and poor planning on the part of the expedition coordinator, was among the deceased. SCP-1529 had not been under observation at the time due to it having entered active phase sometime during the night, and it had not yet been located on telescope. Today, this is the first and only documented instance of SCP-1529 traveling below the 8,000 meter mark or ending camp while inhabited. Incident 2. On 2000, agent in the permanent facility in China engaged in telescope surveillance of SCP-1529 while it was active near the summit of the mountain. Reported that SCP-1529, while facing the direction of the base, looked directly in the direction of the telescope. Immediately reported symptoms consistent with an SCP-1529 encounter. Reported that SCP-1529 had begun descending the mountain in the direction of the permanent facility. Was unable to pull himself away from the telescope and had to be manually restrained and stayed 17 minutes after the beginning of encounter, whereupon he was rushed to facility sick bay and found to have a core body temperature of 27 degrees Celsius and signs of frostbite in the fingers and toes. Despite having remained indoors at a room temperature of 24 degrees Celsius for the duration of the encounter. Agent who attempted to resume surveillance after illness found SCP-1529 still descending the mountain and encountered similar symptoms. The telescope surveillance was discontinued until when aerial surveillance confirmed that SCP-1529 had ceased to descend and had entered in inactive state. And now we have an interview log here. A long ass interview log, fucking hell. L. Agent on 2000. L was reportedly killed during an encounter with SCP-1529 when it probably became active shortly after L had reached the mountain summit. However, L was found alive when another team reached his position nearly 2 days later and was moved safely from the mountain. He required fingertip and toe amputation due to frostbite, but is otherwise making a full recovery. The following is an excerpt from L's, debriefing them prior to discharge from hospital. Tell me about what happened when you encountered the creature. It can't have been more than 10 minutes after I left the summit, about 1,300 hours. That's the hardest part of the climb. You reach the top and you're exhilarated and proud of yourself. And then you realize you just done the most difficult thing you ever done in your life. And you have to do it all over again right now, backwards. Or you end up like Green Boots. Nickname given to the body of Wang Palsho, who, while wearing a distinctive bright green pair of mountain boots, collapsed and died on the main trail along the northern approach in 1996. The others were 5 or 6 meters ahead of me. I've been delayed a moment to adjust my hood. That's when I saw it come from over the ridge. What was your reaction when you first saw it? Surprised to say the least. We hadn't been told there was anyone else climbing to the top that day. I thought he must have come over from the other side or gotten left behind by his mates. I shouted and waved my hand in the air to get his attention. What about when you got his attention? He looked like right at me, and that's when it started. I suddenly felt happy, relieved. It was like right away all the pain and the soreness and the chills was gone. I didn't have blisters on my feet and I could feel the tip of my nose again. It was like I was back in, kicking up my feet with the fireplace, like I could forget all my worries and enjoy a well-deserved rest. But isn't that a thing that people say whenever you're about to you're in such a cold area that you're about to pass on? It's like your body actually feels nicely warm, and you think you're somewhere else. So you just kind of just let the cold take you. But it didn't feel right. Have you ever heard of paradoxical undressing, when your body starts to cool down, really cool down, your blood vessel dilate, and you start to feel like you're warming up? So you're taking off your clothes because you feel like you're burning up and you need to cool off. Next thing anyone knows, you're naked and frozen to death, curled up in a snowbank. Alan Mayville went that way in 98. As far as I know, he's still caught up next to the Hillary step. A sheer rock face near the summit on the southeast approach named for Sir Edmund Hillary, the first man to successfully traverse it in 1953. Okay. So you believed you were imagining it? Right, so I tried to shrug it off, but I couldn't make my eyes off the man who started climbing up towards me, and that's when it all went to shit. How so? Right away, all the warmth and comfort was gone. Suddenly, I felt cold. I'm gonna eat another pretzel because this is gonna be a long one. Colder than I've been before. Colder than I had rather be. I couldn't feel my fingers in my face. My lips felt cracked and frozen. I tried to breathe and I was like my lungs were full of water. My legs cramped up and next thing I knew I was down. My mates were almost 30 meters off by now. I tried to yell to them, but all that came out was a whisper. I looked up and that thing was still coming. How long did it take for you to reach you? How long did it take for it to reach you? An hour? I'm not sure. I couldn't see my watch and I don't think I could have made sense of it anyway. I managed to get my arms on the ground, but I couldn't push myself to the feet. I was getting to the point that even if I could ride myself, I wouldn't be able to make it back to the camp before nightfall. I was starting to think I wasn't making it off the mountain at all. But what worried me more was that man. The closer he got to me, I started to feel something in the back of my head, something primal, menacing, and above all, hateful. What happened when you reached you? Okay, let me just... Yeah, okay. It grabbed me by the shoulders and pulled me up to the face. I was looking right into those goggles, those eyes. Were they goggles or eyes? You gotta be exact, you see, boy. Depending on how you sell this information, it's... Neither, both, I don't know. But I was like, I could see the things in them. Not see them so much, more like feel them. Images, feelings in the back of my mind. Rage and joy and confusion. I think it was used to people resisting it. It asked me a question. It spoke. No words, not words so much. I could hear it, but not with my eyes. My ears. I could not hear it with my eyes. Of course, that's how you do any hearing, right? I mean, unless it's like lip reading. I saw images of people sitting back in the hot tubs, laying by a crackling fire, sunning themselves on the beach. Warm, happy people. But I knew their faces. They were faces I'd seen in the books and pictures, and people I've seen on the way of the mountain where I hadn't seen on the way down. I saw green boots, people still lying face down somewhere in the death zone. And I heard its question, which was, you would refuse my gift? Elle became very troubled at this point, and the Indian was silent for some time. Go on. I could barely make sense of anything that was going on, but I knew that this thing in front of me was a bigger threat than any storm or any snowdrift. Moving my lips was harder than anything I've done, but I did, and I told it. Yes. How did it respond? I saw more images of those same people lying in the snow, already half dead. I could tell I was looking at them from its perspective. It was, they were expunged. Them. I could have been sick. It didn't say anything to me in words so much, but it was angry at me. It was offended, outraged, shocked. It was trying to tell me I've been ungrateful, instead of relaxing peacefully while it did or expunged. I have to feel every minute of it. I asked it, why are you doing this? What did it say? It mocked me. It sounded again. Just a few more questions, please. How did it mock you? It showed me another one of its victims, probably the first one, Mallory, 1924. I have known that face like my own mother's, but I've never seen it in that kind of detail before, or in that condition. He was on his stomach, weak, frostbitten, dying. He was wavering and howling at the things I watched it approach from its own perspectives. It looked him in the eye and it did look sponged. It made me watch every second until it was done. I think watching it was worse than living it would have been. And then it told me. I told you what? Because it's there. Quote attributed to Mallory in the New York Times, 1923, when asked why he wanted to climb Everest. What happened next? I wasn't going to let Taylor Expunge happen to me. I was holding me up, so I had just enough strength to ball up my fist. I punched it. You punched a yeti? All as I could, every last ounce of my strength I had, right in the goggles. They cracked. I could see what was behind them. What was that? They expunged. I don't remember much after that. I must have gotten into my BV bag somehow because that's how they found me. And closing statement. After L encounter with SCP-1529, it was not observed active or inactive for 5 months, 17 days, 19 hours. Upon next observation, its goggles showed no signs of damage or wear. L passed away on 2000. Foundation media assets have reported that the cause of death was due to complications from childhood exposure to asbestos. An autopsy performed by the Foundation indicated that L was suffering extreme hypothermia, frostbite, and cerebral edema at the time of his death. L had retired from mountaineering following the SCP-1529 encounter and had not traveled more than 500 meters above sea level in the 12 months preceding his death. Addendum on 2000. Aerial surveillance picked up an image of an individual of similar appearance to SCP-1529 near the summit of. As the government has prohibited mountaineering, threatened normalcy is negligible at this time. Aerial and satellite surveillance will continue on a regular basis until permanent monitoring stations can be established. And that's the end of this reading. Okay. I gotta say, I don't want to meet a monster like that in the middle of a hike either. And if it then makes me like somehow like fall up, like if it hypnotizes me and then asks me like if I refuse its gift, I'll be like, yeah, I don't know you. Why are you trying to scare me like that, bro? Huh? You busy? Or not busy at all? Like, is this your hobby, or is this something you just have to do as a job? And then I would probably die, because that lady does seem a bit aggressive.